Got ourselves a Dalek. Ah! Oh, this hairstyle though. Oh, it's a lovely outfit.
Clara!
Jesus!
No, stop. Stop. Don't move. Don't do anything.
Why? What is it?
Oh, that's a wig. It's gotta be.
I'm naked.
Gallifrey.
What did you say? Gallifrey is my home. I know it when I see it. That is not Gallifrey. Papal mainframe. It's like a great big flying church. Mother Superius!
Mother Superius? Come here. No!
Doctor.
That score? Oh my god. It is that score.
What's wrong? It's only a crack in the wall.
Ah! Oh yeah, all the classics in the final episode.
I always knew it wasn't over.
Okay then. Wow, this looks beautiful.
What is it?
Whoa!
The oldest question in the universe. Hidden in plain sight. Now please, go to the TARDIS and just do as I say.
Oh wow. Look at this.
What's it called?
Trenzalore.
Oh! She's like...
Silence will fall.
Oh my god, it's all coming back. Incinerate. Okay, that's you. Oh.
You didn't even say goodbye!
I am furious with you!
Well, I am not even talking to you!
Hug it out, come on.
Hey, after all these years, I've finally found someone that needs me to stick around.
Oh.
There you go, buddy. Comfy.
Comfort is irrelevant.
How's that? Is that better?
Affirmative.
You just take it easy, buddy.
I love this.
He's getting old.
He's a companion,
I do
essentially.
my best for him, but I just can't get the parts, you know.
I have developed a fault.
Hey. Handles.
Oh, this
Come
score.
on. Come on. One more dawn. You can do it.
Action required. You must patch the telephone device back through the console unit.
Come back. Handles.
Oh, wow, this is really quite emotional.
Handles. Thank you, Handles. And well done. Well done, mate.
Oh. The fields of Trenzalore lighting up.
If you've been paying attention.
Yeah, look at
I'm
him.
an old man now.
But you don't die.
I can change 12 times, 13 versions of me. 13 silly doctors.
Okay, so you're number 11, so...
Ha, are we forgetting Captain Grumpy? Huh? It was still a regeneration.
There it is.
Okay, so you're number 12.
Well, number 10 once regenerated and kept the same face. I had vanity issues at the time. 12 regenerations.
Oh.
Clara, I can't ever do it again. This is where I end up.
Trenzalore.
This face. This version of me.
I mean, that's... Let's see. How they get around that.
The Kavarian chapter broke away. They traveled back along your timeline and tried to prevent you ever reaching Trenzalore.
So that's who blew up my TARDIS.
Ah!
I thought I'd left the bath running.
They blew up your time capsule, created the very cracks in the universe through which the Time Lords are now calling. The Daleks send for reinforcements daily. They are massing for war. 3 days ago, they attacked the mainframe itself.
They attacked here.
How did you stop them?
Stop them.
Yeah.
I died in this room screaming your name.
She's back. You never could resist a row.
Kiss me when I ask.
Barrows nicely.
In your dreams.
I will never send you away again.
Doctor lies.
And so those ancient enemies, the Doctor and the Silence, stood back to back on the fields of Trenzalore.
Yeah, he's not in it.
You can fly the TARDIS.
Flying TARDIS was always easy. It was flying the Doctor I never quite mastered.
Clara. Hello, Doctor.
We're always so young.
Hey, it's okay. It's fine, don't worry. And now it's time for one last bow. Like all your other selves. 11's hour is over now. The clock is striking 12s.
I don't get it.
Doctor! The Doctor will be brought! The Daleks demand the Doctor!
You've been asking a question. And it's time someone told you you've been getting it wrong. His name is the Doctor. Or the name he needs, everything you need to know about him. Help him.
Oh. The Gallifrey theme. Oh, that sounds like the Regeneration energy, doesn't it? It is. Oh my god, is this it?
Daleks, never, ever tell me the
Oh. Oh.
Doctor,
Hello?
you are the Doctor.
Yep. And I always will be. But times change, and so must I. Amelia, we all change. We are all different people, all through our lives. And that's okay, that's good. You've got to keep moving so long as you remember all the people that you used to be. I will not forget one line of this. Not one day. I swear. I will always remember when the Doctor was me.
Raggedy Man. Good night.
No.
Please don't change.
Oh, wow. Just like that. Immediate shift in the tone, score. Oh my god.
I've got new kidneys! I don't have
off your kidneys.
Do you happen to know how to fly this thing?
Oh man. Yeah. Once again, I'm a mess. Alright, Matt Smith. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Peter Capaldi is in the house. It's quite the first impression, of course. Though I saw him in the last special, The Day of the Doctor. You know, quick glimpse, those intense eyes and the iconic eyebrows. I get to see more of those intense eyes and the iconic eyebrows as well. But yeah, you know, he's got a lot of intensity about him, doesn't he? Right? You could maybe even argue that he looked a little bit scary, right? For some, he might be. But you know, him studying Clara's face, and I loved Jenna Coleman's acting in that moment as well. You know, her shocked look at the sight in front of her, right? It's like the impossible sight, but it's happening. It's happening, and you know, I'll get to Jenna Coleman in a bit because she, you know, one of her stand-up performances for sure. You know, since coming on as companion, I thought she was really integral to a lot of these really emotional moments. But Capaldi, yeah, you know, doesn't seem to remember how to fly the TARDIS. Doesn't seem to recognize Clara as he is studying her face, right? Something about kidneys and not liking the color. It kind of goes back to Series 6, doesn't it? Matt Smith mentioned something about, you know, the kidneys going first. He was in a lot of pain. He was back then, right? So yeah. So yeah, you know, it seems to be setting up some type of you know, memory loss for the Doctor, for Capaldi's Doctor, as of this point. But yeah, you know, I'm excited for Capaldi. I am, because you know, for the first time since I've kind of, you know, started the show, I'm getting someone who's a bit older, right? I'm not calling him an old man or anything, but like, you know, come on, he is quite a bit older than Tennant or Matt Smith around the time they took over, right? Totally different feeling about this, and I think it is about the right time to get this take on the Doctor now, right? An older figure, an older head, because yeah, after Tennant's run, I think it would have been a bit too early for someone like Capaldi to bring in someone like Capaldi. I think, yeah, you know, they needed another young person. They needed another, I mean, not just another young person, you know, from the things I kind of came across in the comments, since the 11th hour, he was the youngest to ever play the role at that point. So yeah, you know, they needed that. They needed that energy that Matt Smith brought, right? And he continues to bring right till the end, right till, you know, the regeneration. In fact, I think, you know, he's kind of gone from strength to strength, you know, since the 11th hour. And now, you know, you could actually even argue that this might be his finest performance to date as the Doctor, right? Listen, you know, above anything else, right? Yes, you know, it's a big regeneration episode, of course. But I think this episode as a whole, it's a celebration of Matt Smith and this Doctor, the 11th. I feel that this episode did an excellent job of encapsulating this Doctor and everything he stands for, the person this Doctor is, right? And of course, I'll have a whole segment on that in a bit, of course. But yeah, you know, Peter Capaldi, and you know, beyond Peter Capaldi coming on, I think his addition, right, his inclusion now, I think it'll make for a really interesting progression for Clara as well, right? Because, you know, that, listen, I was hoping, I mean, it was kind of impossible, right? But you clearly see that she did have an interest in him, a romantic interest, right? The truth field kind of made her slip up, right? Now, you know, it's not a shock. You know, you've seen more than enough scenes at this point, or I've seen more than enough scenes at this point to see that there is a little bit of that in there, right? So, of course, it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic changes, right? You know, the older looking Doctor, of course, and of course he's going to have a completely unique personality as well. He'll make it his own. And you know, on that front, you see that the Scottish accent is front and center. It's front and center. So, you know, that's going to be a nice little shift as well. But yeah, I am really quite excited for Clara's character progression. And I'm really quite excited for Jenna Coleman, of course. And I think I read somewhere that apparently she's the longest running companion, or she had the longest run up until this point, up until her run as a companion. I think it was in one of the comments. So that's certainly exciting, because of course, as you could tell, I certainly like Jenna Coleman and I certainly like Clara. But of course, that being said, there's still a lot that can be kind of developed in terms of that character, a lot that can be fleshed out, right? And, I've mentioned it over the span of the last few episodes now that, the chance is there, the opportunity is there now to do that, to flesh out Clara's character even more, right? Not to say that she hasn't been integral and, interesting and intriguing at times, but there's certainly a lot that can be done still, right? Much more that can be done in terms of a proper, full series character arc for Clara as her own individual, rather than, this plot device almost sometimes, right? You can make the case that every now and then in some of these episodes, earlier episodes of Clara, she was kind of used as, the plot rather than a character. So yeah, I'm excited for that, or excited about that. But Capaldi, see, this look is not the look I've seen of Capaldi, right? Of course, Doctor Who, really popular. So of course, like before, I've seen posters and like Blu-ray covers and, marketing stuff, just randomly, photos on Twitter and all that stuff, right? Social media. It's unavoidable. Realistically, in this day and age, it's nearly impossible to stay spoiler-free about a lot of these things. But yeah, the look I remember seeing was of Peter Capaldi, and he had like long hair, right? Much longer than the one I saw here, the look I saw here, right? This is really short hair, Peter Capaldi, but yeah, I've got to say, I really like that look. The photo I saw of his big, nice hair, and, he had a nice suit on as well. So I'm really excited for that look. I'm just really excited for his style, his disposition, all of that, Of course, the Regeneration is incredibly sad, and it really did a number on me again. The crazy thing is, the Regeneration, right? It's coming. This actor that you adore is about to essentially give his final performance on this role, and he's out. And you think you can handle it. You think you'll be ready, and it's not going to kind of affect you as much as it did the first time. I've got two of them under my belt now. Of course, Eccleston to Tennant, and then Tennant to Matt Smith. It's 3 for 3, isn't it? All three of them have just decimated me. It hits me so hard. It's just, I don't know, man. For me, attachment to fictional characters is something that feels almost natural, right? Because I kind of came up on storytelling, right, from a young age. All types of media, right? Gaming, film, cartoons, and like anime and books and graphic novels, all of that, right? So I'm able to really kind of lose myself into a fictional story and the characters of a fictional story. I'm really able to attach myself to them and kind of become attached to them, right? Kind of latch on. So it hits me hard. It hits me hard, especially, if it is a long-running show or character that I've come to love and adore, like the Doctor, and then of course the specific actors that play the Doctor. And as you've seen, I've just been such a fan of Matt Smith since day one, since the 11th hour. He's been just so tremendous in this role. I think he's done this role justice. I think he's kind of made it his own, right? He's left his stamp on this show, on this role. He is the Doctor, perhaps one of the best Doctors, right? I can only speak for the New Who lineup, but I'm sure for many of you fans of classic Who as well, he probably ranks quite highly as well, right? But yeah, in terms of Capaldi, I'll be moving on to his first episode proper as a Doctor really soon, so that's exciting. But there is going to be a bit of a break in the middle because after episode 2 of Series 8, I do want to go back and check out the biopic That was kind of meant to be, attached to the 50th anniversary, the Day of the Doctor, but I didn't really quite, I don't know. It just really wasn't part of those plans at the time, but I do want to go check it out. So I'll be, watching episodes 1 and 2, and then right after that is going to be the adventure in space and time, right? I'm excited for that. I am. The Blu-ray it should be showing up anytime now. So yeah, excited for more specials, of course. I've been treated really quite nicely, right? These specials, the finale, the Day of the Doctor, now the Time of the Doctor. I mean, that 3-episode run is incredible. I mean, it is just phenomenal, isn't it? But speaking of individual episodes, and in this case, the Time of the Doctor, it's certainly an ambitious episode or story. It's certainly quite the spectacle. And you really get an idea of it in the cold open before the opening credits even roll in, right? The amount of things that the Doctor has already done before the credits roll in, it's insane. It's insane. And of course, that pacing continues after the credits as well, right? There's a lot to get through here, right? A lot of it. So much so that I think this actually could have benefited from perhaps an extra 10 to 15 minutes. If you go back to Tennant's goodbye, there's a grand 2-part finale. Though, ultimately I felt that, the goodbye elements and the regeneration elements, the emotional aspect of that 2-parter is the thing that really stood out most to me. But yeah, I think for the time they were given, I guess, for this finale or for this special, it is a Christmas special. I keep forgetting. But maybe that's one part that kind of falls a little bit flat, right? It almost feels kind of shoehorned, doesn't it? That element or that aspect of it, that it is a Christmas special. It didn't feel like it. Yes, every now and then there's a mention of it, bit of a focus on it, but it didn't feel like the usual Christmas specials because there's just so much that's happening, that needs to happen, that needs to be focused on and should be focused on, right? So in that sense, the whole Christmas element kind of comes as like a secondary thing, like an afterthought almost. So yeah, I do think it could have used the same runtime as the Day of the Doctor. I really do. Because, it's not just that it's a regeneration episode. It's not just that, it's Matt Smith's final episode. It covers a lot. It's essentially covering everything. It's a wrap up to his entire run, essentially. Everything that's been kind of, set up and kind of, hinted at, the plot threads and the mystery and the intrigue, all of that is being kind of wrapped up together. But to Moffat's credit, a lot of this is actually quite satisfying. The mystery or the answers I'm getting for some of these mysteries, finally, right? Yeah, it was satisfying. It was fulfilling to get these answers. And it felt like, these loose ends have been wrapped up. But also you could see that they are trying to give the next Doctor, Capaldi's Doctor, a bit of a fresh start. Just like how Matt Smith had a fresh start as well, right? But yes, of course, there's a few things that carry on to the next phase of this. Of course, the companion, that element is back now, right? Kind of going back to Rose from Eccleston to David Tennant. And now you have Clara from Matt Smith to Capaldi. But that's one of the reasons I do think it could have used the extra time or perhaps even a 2-parter, because some of these plot threads really had the potential to be explored, right, in detail rather than just kind of answered. Stuff like the Papal mainframe, the Church of the Papal, is that right? Papal? The Church of the Papal mainframe and the leader, Tasha Lem. That is one of the great 1-episode characters for me, at least. I really enjoy that character. I mean, she does kind of feel like River Song. A lot of the things just kind of remind you of River Song, but here you have someone who doesn't age, right? Or at least they're alluding to that. That she doesn't really like aging, something along those lines. Someone who is able to fly the TARDIS. Right? Someone who's clearly been in the Doctor's life for a long time. They have this really flirty, fun thing going on. Perhaps, there's been more than that as well behind closed doors. Yeah, I really quite liked her. This Blade Runner inspired makeup, and I love the costume design in this, of course. Her outfit, Clara's outfit, beautiful. Of course, the Doctor rocking his outfit. Um, so yeah, in terms of the production, it's one of the best. It really is, right? Production design, the photography here is some of the best of the entire series, of the entire show up until this point. I mean, this is like proper modern television at this point. I think this episode has some of the most memorable and some of the most iconic frames of the entire show at this point. Certainly some of my favorites. And once again, Murray Gold's music, his score, has been used to perfection from scene to scene. The music that they selected for that moment, it's a major moment. The Doctor's final speech, his monologue, his goodbye. And, the thing I love about that is it's just so beautiful, right? Of course, the content of his speech and his message, I'll get to that. But, it felt like it was applicable to so many different parties, so many different things, right? Or it's speaking to so many different things, of course, to us, the audience, right? To Clara, to the Doctor himself, right? He's telling himself all of this as well. And then also Matt Smith kind of making this final statement, because it really feels like all three of these, Eccleston and Tennant and Matt Smith, it feels so intimate and personal to them, so unique to each one. The dialogue that's been chosen for them. And, I appreciate that. I really do. In that sense, if you compare the 11th and 10th Doctor's regeneration, it is quite the contrast, isn't it? It really is. 10th, it's really quite an emotional goodbye, isn't it? It's quite an emotional moment because, the 10th Doctor always felt like the most human out of the three, right? That's clear, because through all of that, you see that he is kind of confronting the big human experience, right? Death. It really focuses on that aspect of it, that he's not ready to go. Even if you get to say your goodbyes, no one's really truly ready to go. And he gets quite a long send-off. The build-up is just tremendous in that. It just keeps going on and on, doesn't it? His goodbye, the long goodbye, essentially, right? But the big difference here is that Tennant's Doctor, the 10th Doctor, I'm not sure how long exactly he was around, but he did not get to live as long as the 11th. And, that brings me to the 11th and his departure, right? He was really quite, to me, it felt like he's satisfied, right? That he's satisfied with his time here, that he was a successful Doctor in his time, right? And again, he gets to spend so much time as the Doctor. In fact, you could argue that he was the most successful Doctor out of the three I've seen so far, right? And, beyond just the time spent, he experienced some really life-altering moments, or, life-changing moments, much more recently, knowing or having the knowledge that, Gallifrey is safe, right? He moves on, he regenerates, knowing that he played a part in, securing Gallifrey. Yes, it's out there in a pocket universe, and yes, they're trying to get through the cracks, the infamous cracks, of course, brought back in the final episode as well, as the Doctor himself was also expecting, right? As he does come across it in that basement in a town called Christmas, right? The man who stayed for Christmas. I love that. I love that touch. But yeah, I think his time as the Doctor really allowed him to be quite calm in that moment, quite accepting of it all, right? He understood, he accepted it. There was even a bit of excitement there, right? Perhaps in the sense that, he's excited to see the man he's going to become now. He was able to make peace with it all, right? He does spend centuries essentially on Trenzalore, and then specifically on or in Christmas, the town of Christmas. So, for him, it was kind of like a foregone conclusion. He resigned to it, or he was resigned to it, right? He accepted it that he's going to die, but he does that because he makes the choice to be the protector of this little town, right? This insignificant town, unimportant town, according to Tasha in the narration in the cold open. And I loved how it opens with that fairy tale-esque intro, right? The narration. And then, of course, in terms of contrast, you see that, Tennant's doctor, the 10th, essentially dies after, saving the planet, or perhaps even the universe. It was the universe, right? Because he has to send the Time Lords back. But then here you have such an intimate setting, right? It's just a town in Trenzalore that happens to be, just at that specific location, I suppose, right, of that crack. So yeah, the one thing that I'm kind of thinking about since the end of that episode is, okay, so essentially the Time Lords, they grant the Doctor regeneration energy, or a brand new cycle, right? He said something along those lines, a full new cycle or something along those lines. So they've granted him that, right? So does that mean that they've essentially changed that future now, right? The future that, they show us in the name of the Doctor. And I'm trying to think of how that kind of affects that. If it potentially undoes some of the things that happen in the name of the Doctor. Correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially that's the case, right? The Time Lords, after granting him the regeneration energy, kind of not reset. They changed the future. They changed the future that was set up in the name of the Doctor, right? The older Doctor that dies on the fields of Trenzalore. Ultimately, Dorium, he was right. He did say the fall of the 11th. The 11th Doctor does regenerate in Trenzalore. So he wasn't wrong about that. But yeah, in terms of The Man Who Stayed for Christmas, I thought it was lovely, right, that he finally actually gets to settle down for hundreds of years, right? Yes, it's not the most ideal situation because, he's kind of on the cusp of something insane happening if, some of these things kind of play out, and he's kind of there to stop any of that from happening, right? It's essentially a stalemate that kind of lasts for hundreds and hundreds of years. But yeah, there's a really lovely moment, a bit of a sad and heartbreaking moment as well, actually, as Clara kind of comes back the first time before she sees the old Doctor. And it was really, really quite sad and heartbreaking, right? And I think, Matt Smith and his range is on display here because he makes you believe. He makes you believe, right? But, that being said, there's a really fun moment later as, he is kind of given the gift of new regeneration energy from his people. The crack opens up in the sky and it disappears. But of course, they have their own selfish intentions or reasons for that as well. They need this Time Lord to survive. They need him. They need him around. But the cool thing is here you see that he gets to actually play a young man in an old man's body, right? Because, up until this point, I've noticed and I've read in the comments as well, a lot of people think that, he's really fantastic at portraying an older Doctor, like an older man in a young man's body. But he also gets to do the opposite here, doesn't he? Right? He's playing like air guitars as this old man, and you can clearly feel the energy of a young person within this older body of his. And essentially he does regenerate at the top of the tower, right? And it's quite the regeneration, isn't it? I mean, there's a one shot of this inferno of energy, right? This pillar of energy, and it kind of sends out this, this blast or this, force. So yeah, essentially he regenerates. And I thought that was it, right? Because he is going through those motions and you see the really similar lighting or the lights emitting from the Doctor. So essentially he does regenerate outside on that tower, right? But then something special is at play and he's able to kind of hold the form of Matt Smith or of the 11th for a little bit, right? He mentioned something about it taking a bit longer, right? So I guess that explains the snap, right? His head snaps back and, out comes Capaldi, right? I actually like that approach, right? Like I mentioned, it's quite the contrast from Tennant's Regeneration. So yeah, I'm all for this, for different takes on it. But let me go back to my initial point. He finally kind of gets to settle down. He tells, I almost said Amy, he tells Clara, look, I finally found someone who wants me to stick around. So, those moments of him you see the passage of time through these scenes of him having a fun time with the locals, the children, celebrating, being this figure that everyone loves, right? You see the giraffe dance come out as well. See there, I think some of that, the passage of time, because you do get to see him go from our doctor to 300 years older to then centuries older as an old man as well. So that felt, that part of it felt like it was a bit, not rushed, but it didn't get enough time on screen, right? So another reason I think it could have used, an additional 15 to 10 minutes, or perhaps even 2 parts. And let me tell you about one of my favorite moments of this entire finale of this special, Handles, and the relationship the Doctor has with Handles over those centuries they spent together. I mean, I was a bit of a mess. That scene was so moving and so emotional. It made me emotional. Lump in my throat. I had teary eyes again, seeing, the Doctor kind of lose this constant, this companion of his that he's had by his side for, again, centuries, right? You feel it. And again, through Matt Smith's acting, you feel the sorrow and the pain, losing this constant, right? And he was so thankful. And, you see as the sun comes up, you see some of the light on the face, right? On the helmet of a Cyberman. Who would have thought that one of the most endearing moments is going to be the Doctor losing his companion, essentially, that is also the head of a Cyberman, right? But essentially it's being used as a database of, information that is on the same level as perhaps the TARDIS, right? But beyond that, a friend. And also, I think I got one of the coldest, one of the most epic and rawest moments of Doctor Who, as you see the Silence and the Doctor back to back on the fields of Trenzalore. Oh my goodness, those silhouette shots of both, the Silence and the Doctor in front of them. Sometimes a moment is just hype and it just makes you so excited, it makes you fanboy. That was one of those moments. It was just so epic, right, to see that. But speaking of the Silence and Madame Kavarian, was it? So yeah, one of the big revelations here is that, they kind of broke off and, they start going through the Doctor's timeline, much like River Song, who was essentially also, created for the same reason. And then, there's a great moment. He tells Tasha, ended up marrying her. And I love that, there is a mention of River Song and that he would not have been here alive right now if it wasn't for River Song. So I thought that was a great touch. But, I think I could have used a goodbye to the Paternoster gang, right? That was the one thing that kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, to me at least. I feel like they played a big part in his life, as showcased in The Name of the Doctor. But I'm saying that, but I'm not really seeing how they could be brought in, unless of course the Doctor himself brought them in, right? But yeah, I think, I don't know, it just feels kind of wrong that I didn't get that goodbye, or at least one more scene of all of them together, right? I really love that bond they have, the connection they have, and the respect they have for the Doctor, and the respect that the Doctor has for them, for everything they did for him. But going back to Madame or Madame Kavarian and the Silence, or that faction that kind of breaks off and, tries to kill the Doctor, it's a paradox, isn't it? Because they are the ones who blow up the TARDIS, of course, in an attempt to stop the Doctor. But then that's the reason the cracks happen, right? And then, of course, because of that, ultimately, this whole situation ends up happening, right? The siege of Trenzalore or Christmas, a town called Christmas. But to end it off, let's kind of circle back to Matt Smith's goodbye, or the Doctor's goodbye, the 11th Doctor's final moments. I mean, you know, they kind of called him the one who forgets, but here you see that he has no intention of forgetting ever, right? You know, he said something along the lines of, "I'll never forget the days I was this doctor, but times change and so must I." And, you know, that whole bit about all of us being different people all of our lives, but that's fine. It's okay to, you know, move on, to, you know, to change, as long as you remember the people that you used to be, right? I thought it was all so beautiful, and it was perfectly written for Matt Smith and this Doctor. I think it was the perfect send-off for him. And of course, you know, him taking off the bow tie was a big moment, because, you know, it felt so tactile as he removes it. You know, there's actual sound design that's implemented to make it feel like something of heft, something that did mean a lot to this specific Doctor and his identity, right? And then, of course, you know, he looks at it, he gets a little bit sad, and of course I get sad. And then, you know, there's a slow motion shot of it hitting the ground, I mean, that's such a poignant moment. It is, and I think that is so unique to Matt Smith and his Doctor that, to me, it felt like, okay, that's it. You know, they're retiring the bow tie, and no one else is going to be rocking that. And I feel like only Matt Smith can really rock that, right? Bow ties are cool. And then, of course, you know, Emilia and Amy Pond and Karen Gillan making that cameo. It's a beautiful touch for sure. You know, it could have been nice if Rory was there too, but it's understandable that it is Emilia, right? Or Amy Pond. Because indeed, it was the first face this face saw. So I thought it was a great touch for sure. And, you know, I love that all the drawings of young Emilia, or maybe the drawings of the kids, the children from Christmas as well, are kind of plastered all over the TARDIS. I thought that was a beautiful touch as well. Though, of course, he's just kind of seeing these things. Clara can't see any of this, right? He's kind of having these final parting moments inside of his mind. Yeah, I thought it was a great send-off. It really was. I feel satisfied. You know, of course, I was incredibly emotional and sad, but, you know, it's fulfilling. I'm ready. But yeah, you know, to end it off, Matt Smith, you know, thank you. Thank you for being the Doctor. I enjoyed this so much. I think he was the perfect candidate to take over after David Tennant, right? He really was. And now, you know, because of this portrayal over the span of these past 3 series, now, you know, they're in a position to have someone like Capaldi come in, right? Something they probably could not have done before. Or certainly not directly after Tennant. But I love that in this one last episode, they really showcase and focus on every single aspect of Matt Smith's Doctor that makes him so endearing and so likable. You know, he can be somber and dark. He can be funny and playful. He can be elegant and heartfelt. He can be alien yet familiar, right? He can be intimate yet swashbuckling. All of that. I loved Matt Smith so much in this role. You know, I really did. And I'm really going to try to find some time to go all the way back to Series 5 and check it out, you know, on my own time, episode by episode. Because, yeah, you know, Matt Smith was just fantastic in this role. And this whole 3-series run, I thought, was great for Matt Smith. Yes, you know, it was a bit bumpy from time to time. You know, Series 6 and then, you know, a lot of episodes of Series 7 as well are actually really quite bumpy. But I think as a whole, I mean, come on, there's some all-timers. There's some all-timers in these 3 series, right? And some all-timer performances by Matt Smith in the show of Doctor Who. But yeah, that's about it for this one, folks. Journey's End, you know, the Doctor is dead. Long live the Doctor. Right then, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. Yeah, you know, really consider giving me your thoughts on this finale and Matt Smith as the Doctor. If you are interested in early access or perhaps full length, consider checking out the Patreon page. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media. if that's your thing. Whew, okay, so thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is, and I appreciate your time. I really do. And I do hope to see you again soon for the Peter Capaldi era. How about that? Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. So until then, take it easy.